Hello, my friends in movie fandom, wherever you may be and however you may be watching. Thank you so much for giving us this little bit of your time. Boy, a big episode, a very emotional one, a weird change of pace, but oddly, probably the best of a really good series so far. Just a really, really good episode that kind of came out of left field, but plenty to talk about. You're here to talk about that with me tonight is the power couple from The Harsh Truth. We got Grim and Septum. What's going on, my friends?
Well, you know, just getting emotional.
This episode was so good, you have still been crying about it every day since we watched it when it came out at 9 on Sunday.
Man, it was... Whew.
Look, my thing is I saw, like I mentioned before we came on here, I saw a TikTok that was like, it's like me thinking because I played the game, I'm going to be safe from emotions, and then nope.
Well, I mean, you're the expert on this, and we'll talk about this a little more, but I mean, let's touch on it a little bit now. This was actually a pretty big departure from the game. I mean, the game does not really explore their relationship. It alludes to some things that they built on in this, but this was very much a different turn, a different look at these two characters than what we got in the game. That much I get about the game, I know. I mean, was it overall a good thing or a bad thing for you who has all the experience with the game?
I liked it because it does give some more weight to Bill's character. Because I mean, when you see him in the game, he is that kind of, you know, you can tell he was like the prepper type. He was the, you know, I'm kind of mad at the world type of deal. And you know, he does mention Frank, and it's enough that you realize like there's something probably there. And even in like the maybe 30-40 second scene where you finally see Frank's demise in the game, the amount of that's the most emotion, like real emotion. You just see a really distraught Bill, and I'm like, this now carries that same amount of weight to that character and gives him more of a. It makes you understand more of like what he was really talking about. And you're like, maybe he isn't just like a wisecracking asshole. I could not say that, but you know, even though he said, you know, I cared about somebody once, and it's only good for getting yourself killed. And I was like, wow, well. I was like, gee, I hope that doesn't happen in this episode. Lo and behold.
Well, it was played out a lot better. I mean, it was really fleshed out pretty well. But I mean, just kind of breaking down. Well, before we go into that, there is something that we wanted to mention right at the top, is we did have a very unfortunate passing in the world of entertainment that kind of directly ties into this. As I forget to click one of my things I had to click. We did recently lose actress Annie Wershing. She was best known for her roles in positions of authority on television series like Star Trek Picard, 24, Bosch, and Timeless. She did pass away Sunday in Los Angeles at the age of 45. She unfortunately passed away after a battle with cancer, this coming from her publicist. They noted even after she was diagnosed a couple of years ago, she continued her acting work, playing very beautifully, I might add, the Borg Queen in the second season of Star Trek Picard, which, I mean, the season as a whole wasn't that great, but she was very, very good in it. She brought a different kind of humanity to that role, which, I mean, it's hard to bring humanity to the role of a Borg, but I mean, she did it. Also, I remember her from 24 as being an agent that Jack Bauer has to deal with, and eventually decides to try to start a relationship with when she played FBI agent Renee Walker. But why are we mentioning that today? Because Anne Wershing did the voice of Tess in the video game. So this is a direct connection to what we're talking about right now. This saga that is The Last of Us. I don't know, Jeremy, you've kind of, you know, you've been aware of her career, certainly not just in this game, but on television and movies and stuff, just like me. What are some of your thoughts on her passing?
That just sucks, man, because that's, you know, no matter what we always say, you know, it's always too soon. It's always too soon. But I mean, 45, man, that's still too soon. And it sucks because I mean it's cancer, and you know, sometimes you can't really do anything about it. All you do is fight it. You know, I didn't want to be cheesy and say, I mean, well, hey man, she was a survivor until, you know, you just can't go no more. But the weirdest thing was I was catching my mom up on the show, and she hadn't seen episode 2 yet. So it's like we literally just watched Tess die in the show, and then right after we finished that, you said, "Oh, Tess just died." I was like,
yeah.
What? I thought you meant the actress. I'm like, oh, holy shit.
No.
And I'm like, no fucking way, dude.
Yeah, I was just
I didn't know.
my phone
Yeah, I was like, that doesn't quite look like. I'm like, oh my god, Tess from the game.
Yeah.
Man, that hurts. But that'd be my biggest thing that I knew her from. But like you mentioned Star Trek, and she was in a different Star Trek at the start, and she was no slouch. You were talking about like 24. She was in I just looked at it now. I don't remember what it was. I'm gonna butcher whatever it was. It wasn't General Hospital. It was something else that she was in a lot of episodes of. So yeah, can't.
But yeah, the one thing that jumps out at me is 24. That is one of my top 2 or 3 television shows that has ever been created, in my opinion. And I thought she was I mean, if you talk about it kind of gets shit on a lot, putting a woman in a position of power on screen, because a lot of people will say it's woke or whatever. But she legitimately, like, if I would have met that character in real life, I would believe that she was just driven to be great at what she did. Yeah. And that to me is a sign of a great actor. It's like if you can put all the other bullshit aside and be like, I absolutely believe you are this powerful, regardless of the other nonsense. But I mean, she was also on Timeless, which is a pretty good. She was on Bosch, which, you know, a lot of people told me I should try to watch. I just haven't gotten into it. Not that I don't want to. I just don't have time to watch everything that comes out there, unfortunately. But like I said, I have all caught up on Picard on Paramount Plus. A big Star Trek guy, but.
The way I totally am too, if you can't tell by my clothing.
Yeah, she played. It's the Borg Queen is a hard character to play because you're trying to bring a little bit of humanity to something that's basically just a biological weird new age robot. Yeah, and it's really, really hard to do that until you don't know how you're going to do it until she does it. And you're like, oh, that looked easy. It's like she did that kind of thing with a role that was very, very difficult. And look, if you can shine in a role in Star Trek, you're doing pretty damn good for yourself. Yeah. Because a lot of people have gone into Star Trek and they've just not looked like they were up to the job. There's a reason why Shatner has become the legend. There's a reason why Nimoy became a legend because that. I mean, throughout its entire run, from the beginning all the way in the 60s up till now, that's always been kind of ahead of everybody else's way of thinking. Star Trek's always been a little too smart for a lot of people. It tends to get its credit over time. And she just walked right in and just owned that role. I mean, she was so dense and so stunning in it. There was a beauty in that weird robot that only really existed from, like, you know, the neckline up. That was all the humanity, the human that was left in that entire role. But I mean, she killed it. It was an amazing performance by her all season long. You know, for those of you who have watched season 2 of Picard, you know how it all ended. She's not exactly gone, but you know, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, just a very, very sad loss indeed. And again, 24, which to me it's one of my top 3 television shows ever made. I mean, maybe it was just the timing because it kind of came out right after 9/11, the whole everybody was worried about terrorist thing. But I mean, you can't deny that. I mean, that show cycled in and out a lot of acting talent. And every year was just a new shining star. And she came in relatively late in the show's initial run, when you thought maybe the allure of the show was going to start to die down. And then she came in and just murdered. I mean, she just slayed that role. She was so fantastic. And she helped give another dimension to a Jack Bauer character that some people were kind of wondering if maybe he was growing a little stale, and maybe seeing Kiefer Sutherland walking around brooding and fighting terrorists and becoming a bit tired. Her character came in and kind of gave him another dimension and played off that character very, very well, and helped redefine him and reinvent him just enough to push him for another 2 or 3 seasons. So yeah, it's just a fantastic actress all around. She was the voice of Tess before this ever came close to becoming a live action thing. So we did want to take a minute to give our thoughts about her. So rest in peace, Anne Wershing. And go down in the comments below if you have any memories of her and the many things that she did. Let us know what some of your favorite stuff was down below. But now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this
and strawberries
episode. And strawberries, the meat potatoes, the strawberries and champagne of this
right.
of this episode.
The rabbit, yeah.
But you know, we start kind of where most of these episodes start. We've got Joel and Ellie kind of making their way through this barren landscape on the way to what is next in their early and long journey, and we finally get an explanation. They finally start to develop a little bit of conversation between the two of them over the course of this episode, early in this episode, maybe a little bit late in the last one. And this time, Ellie seems to get her first view of what the world maybe once was like a billion years ago before all chaos happened. She sees her first, as you can see on the screen there, an airplane. And you're reminded that she has not experienced a world that isn't dealing with this problem, whereas Joe did. Joel remembers being on an airplane and flying to go wherever. Joel remembers what things used to be. So he's trying to teach this girl about a world that she has never, ever experienced. So, and I thought it was really interesting when they come across this scene right here where they find that crashed airplane on the hill, and he's trying to explain to her that people once flew around in the sky like birds. To me, it was like going back in time to like the year 1850 and explaining to somebody one of these stupid modern conveniences that we all take for granted, but they think would be magic.
Electricity?
Yeah.
The nerve.
Internal plumbing. You mean you have an outhouse in your house? What is this madness?
What are all these flavors on this thing you call a Dorito?
Yeah, exactly.
Blow your mind, have a warhead.
Right.
Yeah, and on top of that, not only that, but we got really the first full explanation in words when Joe tries to break it down for her. We all know, of course, but Joe tries to break it down for somebody else exactly what happened. And we have eventually come across this mass grave, and of course, we get a little bit of background from that later on in the episode, where Ellie is starting to see exactly the atrocities that mankind has committed in the name of survival in the initial weeks and months after this whole thing started. I mean, Jeremy, what do you think of that scene? I mean, it hit me kind of hard because I'm trying to see this from Ellie's point of view. I'm trying to think about this as like he's explaining it to me like I've never heard of any of this before. And when you kind of do it like that, it hits pretty hard. I mean, what do you think of that scene?
Yeah, because I mean, how do you explain to somebody who's never known anything like that, the world to ever be this way before? And seeing her light up, and it's always a fun comedic moment where she's like, "Really, you did that? Wow!" Like I actually played a little more of the game yesterday, and there's like funny stuff where like you're in the middle of like the financial district in downtown, and she sees like a model, and she's like, "Wow, she's so skinny." You go up to her, and there's like a speech option, and she's like, "Why is she so skinny?" She's like, "I thought you had plenty of food in your time." He's like, "Well, we did, and some people just chose not to eat it." She's like, "Why?" He's like, "I don't know, for looks." And she's like, "That's stupid." And I'm like, or like in one of my other favorites, which is actually, I mean, in context of where we're at, I don't know if they'll do it, but it's somewhat soon. There's an ice cream truck that's abandoned like in the middle of the street in this little suburban neighborhood. She's like, "What the hell is that?" He's like, "It's an ice cream truck." She's like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "Well, it's this." Joel's like, "It's this truck that go around playing loud, creepy music, and kids would run up and buy ice cream." She's like, "No way." He's like, "No, I'm serious." And she's like, "Dude, you lived in such a weird time." I'm like, "Oh my god." She's like, it just hurts, but it's also kind of a nice comedic relief. It's like, she doesn't know what this is, and that's wild to me.
Yeah, one of the things that they've done very well, I don't know if I mentioned this last week or not, but there's a scene in this episode that reminded me of it. When she finds the Mortal Kombat video game in the store that they stop at,
yes,
to get to, Joel apparently has some stuff stashed here, things like that, and she runs into this Mortal Kombat video game, and I'm reminded that she is still a kid. There is still a sense of, despite her importance, despite her knowing why she's important, despite all the stuff around her, the dead bodies, the killing, the zombies, and whatever, she's still got this really innocent, explorative nature about her, which is a great contrast to the other things about her character that we tend to have to focus on because of the story. And when she walks into this video game and she starts, smashing buttons, she's like, "What was this thing for?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I read about this once in a history book. This one character eat this person and barf up his bones," which is a reference to one of the fatalities from the game.
Oh yeah,
I was like, it is so, her innocence and her childlike naivete balances so well in this show. When like 5 seconds later she's running away from one of these infected people, or she's hiding out from somebody not to get caught. Like, it balances so well with the seriousness of her character. It's a combination of both the writing and of her performances, I believe. I mean, is that something that's gotten to you guys too?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say that there are points too. I mean, I think I just got to that point in the game. She stops her, like, I just went through like a fight, like these the hunters who we're about to actually see next. The hunters, which again, as we're saying here, Ellie's gonna start seeing like how the people on the outside of the world that don't have a place like the quarantine zone, what they do, like, and people are, and we tale as old as time, quite literally, people are terrible and they do terrible shit. I just ran to a couple of them in the middle of the street. It's pretty tense, and I got through the fight. And then she just goes, "Oh, okay, we need to lighten the mood." And she pulls out the little joke book, and every once in a while she'll do that. There's some tense thing, and she's like, she'll read these like terrible like puns and jokes, just to lighten the mood. And then she's like, "Okay, well, I'm all joked out for now." So, it helps balance.
I was just thinking, like, going back to the mass grave scene.
Yeah,
I couldn't help but think about, you know, that was almost Joel, and it was Sarah. You know, it that's the reality of it, and you know, they're not really sharing their past with each other, so he wouldn't, you know, necessarily bring that up, but she's asking about it, and I just think about the emotional impact of that.
That's a good point. There does seem to be this buildup about him telling the story of the loss of his daughter to her. And I have a feeling that's going to come at kind of a breaking point in their relationship.
Yes, it will.
Like it's. I mean, yeah. I mean, you'll know better than me because you played the games. But
there's a scene, yeah.
But thematically for the show, I have a feeling that's going to come at kind of a breaking point for the characters in their journey, a breaking point for the characters in their relationship.
It's
kind
coming.
of like it's going to get to a point where both of them are just like, how can we possibly get through this? And that's going to be the point where everything just kind of comes gushing out. He's going to, you know, tell the story about how it started for him in Austin and things like that. So I think I like that buildup, because when he has to tell that story to her on camera and we're going to experience that with them, that's going to be a terribly emotional moment for everybody. And it's like, if you're one of the people who's susceptible to crying at TV shows and movies, I am not. That's going to be one of the things that that's going to be one of the things that really, really just punches you in the gut.
Well, you've only seen like what I've played too. I don't know if you really played the game either.
Really,
so that's
I'm almost in the dark as much as anybody else would be who hasn't played the game,
you know what happens when you're in the dark. You look for the light.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I thought she was gonna say I'll punch you right in the jaw. Thank you. I'll be here for the next hour or so. Thank you.
But yeah, so we did have a lot more growth between the two characters in the first part of the episode, which I thought was fantastic. But then, of course, we get to Bill, the one that everybody has been waiting on. Look, from the moment they showed him in the marketing, I was like, I don't know a whole lot about the game, but this is gonna be the best casting move they make for this entire damn show. because Nick Offerman is so damn good at everything.
Yeah.
It's like I seriously, I have seen him now in so many things, and I'm like, I don't know anybody who, roles big and small. And I think to myself, I don't know anybody who could have made this role that much better than he did. It's like I've seen him in everything from like this to like the Parks and Rec to he was in The Founder, where he played one of the McDonald's brothers that founded McDonald's. And it's like there's something about the stoic way that he delivers lines that gives every character he plays, vastly different as some of them have been, kind of a different dimension, a little bit more, a different kind of depth. And he's just so damn good.
Wasn't he in Pam and Tommy, one of the ones that had the videotape?
Yeah, he was one of the ones that. Well, he didn't steal it. He was the guy who helped.
He was like
Seth Rogen's character.
Yeah, like
reproduce it and send it out over the internet and sell it and stuff like that. But even then, I mean, he was a great douchebag in that movie too.
Right, I know. Like, you see that face he's making right now. It's like he can do that and deliver any line of dialogue and still just be like, is he gonna wisecrack or is he gonna like threaten you with a shotgun as he's doing there? Like, you know, you don't know.
Yeah, but we do get to see spend the next few minutes of the episode going through his backstory. He's living in a small town I'm thinking is it north or I think it's west of Boston. Anyway, somewhere near Boston.
We're in Pennsylvania right now.
Oh, are they in Pennsylvania now? Okay.
Yeah, we're not too far away.
And we go back in time to a week or so after the outbreak begins, and he's obviously one of the prepper guys. He's made arrangements to survive the apocalypse, however it may come. And the town that he's in gets evacuated. He hides out, and after everybody's gone, he basically has the run of this small town to himself, and he lives there for really the rest of his life, as we end up finding out at the end of this episode. Mm-hmm. But and then of course we get the arrival of Bill, who just kind of shows up one day, accidentally falls into one of his traps.
You mean Frank?
Frank. I'm sorry. The arrival of Frank, who just accidentally falls into one of his traps one day. I thought it was curious that he didn't just go ahead and blow him away and pour dirt over his body, let it sit, because it seemed like he had a kind of a good thing going considering the end of the world.
Well, he didn't catch he didn't. I almost said Walker. We're watching back through Walking Dead. I'm sorry. he didn't catch an infected, he caught a person, so it's a little different. It's kind of just like, you know, the person's gonna plead with you like, hey man, hey, don't kill me. You know, I didn't know the hole was in the ground, you know. But I don't know, maybe he's just kind of curious, like, what the hell are you doing here? Like,
yeah, but I thought that was a really cool way to introduce this character. I mean, he clearly is a guy who is a bit burned on the world, the politics of it all, the dissension of it all. I mean, it's just all worn on him in lots of different ways. But when Frank shows up, this is the part where I was really interested, because I knew that they didn't really explore Frank's character a lot in the game.
No.
So I was curious as to exactly how they were going to explore his character in this. Now, I know that it alludes to certain things about the relationship in the game without saying them outright, but they did something differently in this episode. They actually really explore the growth of that relationship and what it really was. Now, I know in the game, and people have shit on this for you know, gay characters, whatever. Bottom line is,
they don't know about Ellie yet, do they?
Yeah. Gay characters can be really good characters too. The sexuality doesn't necessarily mean the character's good or bad. So, but I really like the way, because the thing that I think Walking Dead focused on too much was the collapse of humanity when things go wrong. It was like around every corner there was one group of humans that wants to kill the other group of humans for some variety of reasons.
Humans suck.
And the entire show became about that.
Yeah.
But one of the things I liked that it focused on in this, and a couple spots with certain characters so far in the first 3 episodes, is that there are people that are trying to hold on to the humanity inside themselves. And I think that's the decision that Bill makes when Frank gets there, is he's trying to hold on to that little bit of humanity. He has no idea how this relationship's going to turn out. He doesn't know that things are going to go the way they're going to go between him and Frank. He just thinks, you know, if this is one person that I can save, and it gets a little deeper than that as the episode goes on. But if I can help this one person, maybe I'm saving a little bit of humanity, even if it is just for a few years, just letting that exist in the universe for a few more years. I don't know. How did you think the whole thing started? Because I actually really like the fact that this gruff guy who could have turned his back on this guy and said, "Get the hell out of here and go away and don't tell anybody," or just killed him and eliminate the problem right away. I thought it was cool that he made that decision. I thought it gave his character a lot more depth. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I think that, you know, you're expecting, you know, I mean, going into it without really knowing who this character was going to be, Frank specifically, I don't know, like pulling him. I thought he was going to shoot him at first. I mean, the way he's looking, you know, brings out a ladder, and I figured it would just be, you know, coming into the house, giving you maybe some food and a shower, and then immediately saying, okay, leave now. Like, I've given you the amount of humanity I owe you. Now go. But obviously that's not what happened.
I think that's all he kind of wanted to do. I mean, he even kind of said, like, look, man, just leave. And Frank was even just like, look, I haven't eaten in so long, and there was, like 10 of us. It's just me now. And again, maybe Bill was thinking, like, this is kind of a loose end. Like, I have this person. It's not, like I said, it's not an infected. This is a person that I'm dealing with. Like, his life could kind of just be in my hands. And tries to offer him an out. Then, like you said, he's like, all right, fine. I'll at least feed you. And I mean, and Bill is a sweet setup. I'm not gonna lie. He's got like wine. He's got some. He's a hell of a cook apparently too. I mean, you fell into the best hole you could have, Frank. Like, that was the best place to land. I mean, really, which I think surprised him. And this was what, maybe 4 years, I think it said, into the. So, I mean, if that was the first thing I saw and I hadn't eaten in like 3 days, I'm just gonna be that. You can just see that smile on his face. He's just like, oh my god. First, just like, oh my god, what?
Yeah.
You know, and Bill's just like, yeah, so what? I got a store around the corner, an Arby's. We're building an Arby's on the corner, or whatever he'd say. That was a great. Arby's is a restaurant. They didn't give out free food. Like, maybe that was because he looked at him like, really, dude? Like, maybe it's because he quipped back at him. Maybe that was the, you know, the spark.
I really loved.
I thought they were going to make that joke when he yelled at him later. He's like, "Can I just make it how I want to make it?" And I'm like, "Please say you want an Arby's." We have the meats.
The scene where, you know, he's getting, you know, he's eating, and then he's like, "Okay, I'll leave, but let me play your piano first."
Yeah, because you're like, I'm staring at that piano.
Yeah, and it was a gorgeous piano.
Yeah, and I would love to believe. I'm like, I assume that was actually them singing, because I mean, holy crap,
think it was.
That blew me away. And I wonder if they actually like could play. Like,
I wonder, yeah.
Still, and then you start to see it, Bud, and I was like, oh, see, because what my problem was, where I was like, seeing that, like, oh wait, Frank's alive in this show, and then I was like, no, please, I don't want to watch him die now. It's like, again, you watch Titanic, you're like, I don't want the shit to sink, but I can't do anything about it, and I know it's gonna happen. Like, damn it. I'm like, damn it, I don't, please. And it basically, I mean, somebody saw the Pixar movie Up and was like, we're gonna do that, and then like gut punch you even harder with it. Man. But that, I love the duality of the two of them. Maybe that's also why it's the weird opposites attract. Like Bill's the, hey, everyone stay out of my town, stay away. I don't want anything to do with anybody. I just want to live in peace and quiet and do my thing. And then, I mean, as we'll get to it, I'm sure, but when we talk about later, Frank's more of the open, like, he wants to make it look better. We want nice things. It's not just what we need or have to have. And they have that weird kind of clash, but it's like it does open Bill up more, which is nice. You kind of get that person that, you can,
well,
bring out that humanity, like we were saying.
I think that's the thing that Frank did for Bill. It's not just don't die; it's that enjoy the life that you have. Because even without the wild fungus going around taking over humanity, life is a finite thing anyway, under the best of circumstances. So why spend your life just living when you can actually enjoy the life? And I think that was kind of the lesson that Frank inadvertently teaches Bill.
Why just survive when we can actually live?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like they literally were that yin yang. I mean, they literally were the parts that completed each other. Because whereas Frank was the one who was, I don't want to say more of a homemaker, but somebody who still he came in there wanting to enjoy the little bit of life that they had left, whatever it was going to be. Mm-hmm. Whereas Bill was just like,
Bill's kind of the provider. He really is.
I'm just going to keep breathing as long as I can, and that was kind of his only goal until Frank comes into the picture. And he even mentions that in a letter later on that we'll talk about. Mm-hmm. But after these guys had managed to create their lives a little bit, that's when we see a couple familiar faces. That's when we see Joel and Tess end up making contact with Frank over a radio. And despite the fact that Bill is not at all fond of the idea of having any outsiders even knowing where he's at, he does begrudgingly agree to have them over for a little bit of a meal. They do come to an understanding, albeit an uncomfortable one for both Joel and Bill. They do come to an understanding.
A meal and a pistol, yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've invited people over to dinner and I've thought to myself, I wonder if we can just put my pistol on the table so that they understand that I don't really want to. But
about time to go, isn't it?
Yeah, but yeah, I thought that was the one big scene in this episode that really connects these two. You find out that the codes that Joel has been getting on the radio have been coming from Frank and Bill. You find out that they've been kind of their big outside connection. They've been trading back and forth with some other things. The strawberry seeds, which were a big part of the episode later on in the episode, kind of helps cement what we know that Frank and Bill's relationship had gone into. But I thought it was really cool to see Tess again. Not just see Tess, but I mean she is kind of in this weird moment where it's like her and her boyfriend or husband Joel are just having dinner with the neighborhood friends with the couple down the street.
Right.
And that again, I think as uncomfortable it was for Joel, I think for Tess it probably did a good job at the moment of she wanted the same thing ultimately I think that Frank wanted.
Yeah, they hit it off, you can tell.
For just a minute to enjoy that little bit of life for just a few minutes. Don't just keep breathing, but enjoy the breath that you're taking. And I thought that was a pretty interesting scene. What do you think about that scene?
Yeah, it was nice to see them because from the game too, and in the show they've alluded to they do have contact with each other. They're kind of the Bill and Frank are kind of the outside, little trade route or trade stop, and it's what like I said with Frank, it's like he wants if we can have nice things, why wouldn't you, right? Because like when you see Joel kind of suss out the situation when Tess and Frank go inside to talk, and even though Bill's like, not in the house, damn it.
I love
already let him in the gate.
I love that Frank got him in that shirt. He looks so unnatural.
I wonder if that was
it cracked me up because I'm like, he dressed him up for this nice dinner with this other couple.
They're gonna come over and you're gonna look nice.
Gonna wear a nice shirt.
You're gonna behave.
It cracked me up.
I do like that he is kind of the one who's like, look, dude,
we're doing this.
All right, we're gonna have a good time, damn it. But like you see Joel look around, he even like looks at the fence. He's like, you got a year on that fence, like maybe. It's like I can get you some better materials. I can get you this, and in return, I can we can help each other out. And I'm assuming they had that same conversation with Frank, and also Tess probably had some words with him. So I want to say it. It's like it does plant the seed. Well, quite literally plants the seed for. I'm sorry for later. That it's like is mad and as gruff as Frank as Bill wants to be about this. That was a good thing in the end because it gave you both of you a life like at the end of the world.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that was an interesting piece of dialogue when Joel's talking to him and says, I'll give you the aluminum stuff. It'll last you for the rest of your life. And he goes, or the rest of your lives. And I thought that was an interesting piece of dialogue from Joel because it's Joel telling him, he's like, I see what's happening here. And I just want you to know that I am not here to hurt you. I'm here to make sure that we can work together to make our collective situations a little better. To kind of extend a little bit of an olive branch, a little bit of a little bit of trust out to Bill that otherwise I think maybe Bill at that point might have been like, I don't know if I want to screw with these people at all. But I think that was a message to Bill saying, okay, maybe I don't like this guy, but maybe I can trust him. And that was kind of the thing that really cracked open the door that ended up becoming a useful relationship between Bill and Joel.
And for Tess and Joel.
Yeah.
It can be because it can also be that's a contingency. If something goes wrong in Boston, they could fall back to Bill and Frank's and be like, okay, so what do we do now? Like we have some out. We have some people that we're cool with that we could, if something goes sideways or somewhere we need to lay low for a minute, doing what we do. We got people on the inside or rather the outside, however you want to put it. So it's again, it's like, yeah, like you said, we don't have to like each other really, but we all got to survive this somehow. So. I'll say it now. If you've played the game, you know what I'm talking about. Endure and survive.
Yeah. But, the other thing about the episode that I thought was really good was that you get to watch Bill and Frank's relationship grow from beginning to end. Over the course of this episode, which lasted, what was it, like 50 minutes or something like that? I didn't actually clock the episode.
About an hour.
It was, but roughly an hour. You really do you get to see the relationship from start to finish. And even though it only really gets about 30 or 40 minutes of the hour-ish long episode. It was so detailed and so rich. There was such a great arc from start to finish for these two. It's like he at some point, because it seems like this entire episode that Bill is kind of fighting the relationship with him and Frank in a way. Like he enjoys having somebody to spend his life with. He enjoys having the company. He enjoys feeling affection again, but there's always some part of him that's trying to hold it all just a certain distance away because there's that one part of him that just doesn't want it to get too close. And it seems like as the episode goes on, especially the last 20 minutes or so of the episode, you really start to see it after the Raiders attack. We'll get into that in a second. That he finally just breaks down that last barrier and he's like, I'm just going to accept this for everything that it is because I don't have a choice at this point. It would be unwise to waste the opportunity by not just letting it kind of absorb me. And so and even in that, like that whole scene with the strawberries, he says he traded a gun to Tess, which I had.
Which one?
I was like, right. But you know what I thought was interesting is he never said which one. I think it might be the one that Joel's been carrying on his hip for this entire series so far.
Yeah,
I think that might come out.
Someone mentioned it was probably the one that Joel has. Yeah,
I think that might come out, but yeah, because he's like one of the small ones. So I'm like, well, obviously it's not like a minigun or a rifle or anything. It's,
right.
It's probably something. And I had to thinking about that right as that happened. I was like, I bet you it's the one that Joel's got on his hip. But and I thought maybe it would get mentioned somewhere later in the episode, but it didn't. Maybe it'll get mentioned somewhere later in the series, but I don't know. I think that's the thing. But it's like even that point where he shows them that he grew the strawberries so that they would have this thing that they hadn't had for a long time. Having a simple handful of strawberries to bite into or to cook with, since Bill's apparently a Michelin star level chef.
He could be a really good post-apocalyptic Gordon Ramsay type character.
Yeah. So I mean, just something like that.
Raw.
Like even then, as they were sitting there over these strawberry plants and they were picking the strawberries and eating them fresh off the vine. It's like even part of that seemed painful for him, but that was kind of like the first visual sign that I saw of maybe him kind of letting that wall down a little bit. He's like, I really uncomfortable, but I'm going to go with this because I'm developing a trust for Frank. And, whatever. Okay. So he traded away one of my guns. It was one of my small ones. So, and I get some strawberries out of it. I thought that was a really cool scene for the growth of their relationship too. I mean, what do you guys think?
Because after seeing him, before that, they had that argument in the street.
Yeah.
About why do you need paint? We don't need this. We don't, why would we take more than what we need?
Why do we need the boutique?
Right.
Right.
And they have that argument. And it's just like, because I want to live and I want us to have friends and I want to, and eventually, they're coming to terms together with that. And then the scene with the strawberries, it seems like, obviously he would be upset a little bit about the gun being traded.
It's like your wife buys a puppy and doesn't even tell you. And It's like, well, but we got a puppy. But we got strawberries.
But it felt much less angry and less upset about it. Just more like, okay, there's a good in why you did this. I understand why you did this. Like, I'm still a little upset, but I love you, so I forgive you, kind of a thing.
This is the best episode of The Odd Couple I've ever seen in a show. Seriously.
Yeah.
My God.
I also thought it was funny how it went from that initial part where they kind of like have that moment where they kind of fall for each other, and then it jump cuts to 4 years later or whatever it was, and they're arguing like an old married couple. Which I thought,
right.
Yeah.
That's
the real relationship part.
So he's like, Frank even has that sassy walk while he's like, well, I've been talking to a real nice woman on the radio. What? I'm like, oh no. That was the mic drop. Boom.
Well, you know what they say in a relationship. If you make it through the first 5 years, you're probably golden. You're probably in pretty good shape.
Yeah, especially in apocalypse, man. Holy crap.
Yeah. Especially when there's crazy mushroom fungus rolling around trying to kill humanity. But yeah, I thought the arc of that relationship was awesome. I thought that noise, like, I don't know, just that noise that Nick Offerman makes. He takes that bite of the strawberry, almost like has like almost like pain, just like a laughter. Like he just goes like, oh my God, like he just has a moment. And I was just like, oh shit, there it is. Well, I mean, everything he had been through up to that point, even after Frank had been there for a while, it's like he had forgotten what it was like to feel good. So when you forget what it's like to feel good, the first time you feel good after a while, you kind of don't know how to handle the feeling.
Yeah.
You're just like, what is you're like the Grinch. You're like, you have chest pains because you don't realize your heart's growing.
Oh my God. Christmas at Bill and Frank's. I want to see that. I want to see that episode, damn it.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that. It's like, you don't know how you haven't felt that emotion. You haven't had to deal with it for so long that it just,
it's just been in survival mode.
Yeah. It just kind of knocks you out. I mean, you forget about everything else for just a half a second, that euphoria of pure happiness. It was probably hard for him, and I thought he conveyed that very, very well. Again, Nick Offerman, best casting. The casting of Joel, fantastic. He is obviously the best stepdad ever in two universes. But
hell yeah!
But I mean, dude, they could not have done better than Nick Offerman for the role of Bill. He's so good, so good indeed. But Joel and Ellie end up stopping by, and about this time we start to see where things end between Bill and Frank. Now, rather than having Frank in the game, and correct me if I'm wrong, I kind of know a little bit about this. He hangs himself. Frank is not a big part of the game, right? He's not.
No, really... like I said, you already come across him hanging by his neck from the ceiling. You don't. Like I said, the only mention was like Bill says, like, look, I had someone I cared about once. I had a partner. And that's only good for one thing, is getting yourself killed. So wisen the fuck up. And he's like, and he passes Joel a shotgun. He says, you'd be wise to do the same. He's talking about Ellie. And he kind of wonders, like, hey, where's Tess at? The hell? He's like, well, it was her idea. But then you finally get to this little safe area, and they're having an argument, Bill and Joel. And like I said, you just see Bill stop. He looks up. And this is the difference, is because they didn't know that, because like you just see the body hanging from the ceiling. And he's not looking away. He's looking right at it. And then Joel goes, what, do you know this guy or something? He's like, it's Frank. He's like, who the hell's Frank? And he's like, because you almost hear him start to break. He's like, he's my partner. And he's wearing, like, that's what I'm saying. That the reason why they had Nick Offerman in that ridiculous shirt is that maybe that might have been the joke. Mm-hmm. Because when you see the body hanging out there, he's got like a very obvious bright, like, Hawaiian shirt. And then Bill goes like, I know, because he's the only idiot who'd wear a shirt like that. Cuts him down. But it is funny, but then like you see him start to, he's starting to tear up. He's like, he's got bites here. he can't do it. And then Joel just tries to help him. He's like, I don't know. He's like, maybe he doesn't want to turn, you know. And he's like, yeah, I guess. He tries to distance himself again. He goes, yeah, well, fuck him. Well, look around, see what you need. And then we see it later. There's a letter from Bill and Frank, or I guess from Bill really, to Joel and Ellie. But you find a letter in the house that was from Frank to Bill about like, hey, I can't do this anymore and all this stuff. And you give it to Bill and he just reads it and he goes, wow, that's how you feel? Fuck you too, man. Just throws it away. I'm like, wow. Whew. That's all you see. You don't, there's an allusion to it, but like now we saw it and I'm like, God, that just holds so much more weight now. If like, I would just love to assume that that's canon in the game, and then minus the whole like Joel didn't even know who he was, but you know that they had a life and it ended. They ended differently, but you know,
yeah, they do play around kind of with that roadmap in this episode, but rather than not getting to know the Frank character, he is central to Bill, central to the growth, central to this entire episode. And instead of the note being left from Frank to Bill, it's from Bill and Frank essentially to Joel and Tess.
Whoever
to whoever, hopefully
to
Joel.
whoever, and probably Joel.
Probably Joel.
Yeah, probably Joel.
Which I thought was kind of, because right at the end he's still kind of like, fucking, to whoever finds us, probably Joel. Who the fuck knows? I don't really care.
Because anyone else would have got electrocuted probably by this point.
Yeah, probably. Right. But there was, I mean, the letter itself, I think was, again, it was kind of an allusion to how it was in the game, but I love the way that they use that same method of communicating from Bill to Joel this time. And there's this big thing on an article I read online earlier about exactly what was the last part of the letter, because as Ellie's reading the letter, she gets to the part where it says, take care of Tess, and she kind of stops herself, and then Joel grabs it and reads it, and you can see that it's highlighted, but the stuff that's afterwards never really gets read. So there's some people that are like, I wonder what's in the last part of that letter. Is it going to be significant? I think New Rockstars actually broke down like part of it that you could kind of read. I don't think it was anything. Oh, it was nothing terribly significant that jumped out at me. I don't know. You guys you being more familiar with the game might hear it and it might make more sense to you.
I don't know.
But it was just stuff that was still more personal stuff between like Bill and Joel. But I really love that whole idea of, because at some point Frank realizes that he's got some kind of disease, probably cancer. Disease. It doesn't say specifically, but he and Bill both know that his time is running out. And so he wakes up one morning and says, you know what, this is going to be my last day. This is what I'm going to, this is my last day. There's no medicine that will help me do this. There's no medical treatment I can get because the world's essentially ended. He was like, why not just have this one day with me, the person that means the most to me in the world, and our home, and this beautiful day, and then I go to sleep and just don't wake up again. Because, in his position, you got to figure that's not a bad way to wrap things up. You got to be understanding of that. And then, so what we end up getting is kind of this strange double suicide thing. So they cook a meal, the same meal that Bill made for Frank the first time he was there, the rabbit with the same wine, and they kind of like a redo of their first date, so to speak. And they had it's this great little montage of just 3 or 4 scenes from their day where they had the meal, they get dressed up real nice. They're kind of a regular couple in any old town in Pennsylvania at that point for like a day. They kind of exchange rings in a little mock marriage thing, which I thought was kind of interesting. Very, very, very nice, very touching. And then he goes ahead and he brings him apparently a special wine, one that he selected for the occasion. He pours him a glass, mixes in a bunch of this medication or poison or whatever he's going to take that's going to do the job.
Overdose.
And then, for him to overdose on. And then he drinks down the bottle of wine. Bill pours himself a glass and drinks it down too. And in that moment, Frank realizes that he was like, hey, wait a minute, you put some pills in the bottle too. And Bill goes, yeah.
Enough to kill a horse.
Enough to kill a horse.
Enough to kill a horse.
And bastard.
And Frank, he even says that he wants to be mad. He's like, but approaching this objectively, it's terribly romantic. He's like,
they kind of had a switch there where he's like, damn it, why did you? All right, I'm not mad.
That was the moment that Bill comes full circle. He's like, and he even says so in the dialogue. He goes, he goes, he's like, you were the one. I forget exactly how he words it, but he's like, you're the one that kind of brought me back from just being one who wants to exist and breathe to someone who wants to enjoy the life that I have left. You were, and he says, you were my purpose. You were the thing that gave my life in this terrible apocalyptic wasteland meaning. And if any of us could be so lucky to be in Bill's situation, to have somebody that would give our lives meaning. And so he said, and him thinking to himself, I've gotten on in years. I'm pretty old myself. I probably have that much longer anyway. And what am I really going to do except just sit here and keep fighting off raiders and infected and stuff like that for as long as my body will allow? Why don't we just both go out together? It seems fitting. And I thought that was a beautiful way to do things. And he even mentions in the note that you can see the open window right there on the left side of the screen. He says, don't come in the bedroom. I left the window open so it wouldn't make the house stink. It even kind of in his true folksy style, he goes, I bet you it'd be a sight. But yeah, I thought that was such a perfect ending for these two characters. And we got to see over the course of that like 35, 40-ish minutes of their time in the episode, the boy meets boy, relationship grows, relationship has its tribulations, relationship finally gets to that point to where it's completely cemented, nothing's ever going to change it, and we get to see it come to a beautiful ending all in the span of like 35 or 40 minutes. 10 Septim looks like she's about to get teary-eyed just thinking about it. It's like
maybe a little bit.
And like I said earlier, it's like I think that I didn't watch a lot of Walking Dead, but it seemed to me like in the later episodes that I watched here and there, they only focused on what's left of mankind just fighting each other for whatever.
And I think Daryl even says, he's like, we've just been going from one war to another. I'm like,
yeah. And so many times they forgot. I don't know if they forgot to or if they chose not to. They didn't focus on the people that were trying to maintain humanity. That were trying to keep what's good about the human being intact.
Like they tried with Alexandria, and they tried with the pact between Alexandria, the kingdom, and the Hilltop. They like tried to, and they're like, well, hey, and we have this problem called the Saviors, and we have the Whisperers. But I think it's when Daryl does say, like, yeah, we've just been fighting one war to the next. Like, when are we going to stop this? And that's kind of what Carl's deal was. He was like, when he wrote the letters to Rick and he wrote the letter to Negan, he said, I just want you guys to stop. Why can't we just live like how I saw this dream I had where we're all together living in the same place, planting tomatoes and shit, like just having a, because they do it in a comic, even like when that confrontation between Rick and Negan happens, he tells him, he's like, look, Rick tells him, like, look, we can deal with walkers. That's no problem. We've been doing that forever. Walkers is nothing. The problem is you. People are the fucking problem. He's like, why aren't we just doing this together? We're all here trying to fight the same fight. And Negan even stops and he kind of goes like, yeah, like you're kind of right. And then, he slits his fucking throat, and then, Negan falls to his knees, and he's like, all right, cool. Glad we got that out of the way.
Yeah, but, I thought it was one of the things this episode did is it showed me that they are going to focus on the human aspect of all of this stuff. And I think that's where this show's winning so far. I mean,
it's about the characters, man. Yeah, it's not just the... I think that little clip of Troy Baker saying, he's like, this isn't a show about zombies. This is a show about like the people and like how they survive and how different situations and how people handle it. And like, I think in the after thing of this episode, they said like, this is probably we see what caring and compassion does to different people in this apocalypse. And they're like, Bill and Frank's is probably like the most pure, happy thing you'd want out of something like even in a world like this, So
earlier you were kind of talking about the progression of the relationship. And I just really, that scene near the end of their lives where Frank is painting and half the painting is all whatever. It's like messed up because he can hardly, but it takes you through, you see, wow.
Bill?
Yeah.
There's only so many people in the show. That's why it's The Last of Us. There's only so many people left.
Bill, while Frank's up there painting, Bill just comes by and is watering the flowers. And while that might not have a lot of significance at the first thought, when I saw that, I was thinking, he doesn't have to. They fought over buying paint.
Yeah, you wouldn't think Bill would come by and start.
You wouldn't assume that, it shows that growth. I mean, that true growth in a relationship was like, I don't care about these flowers, but I know that Frank does. And I'm going to take care of these because that's important to my partner. That's important And
you see him like look at, and the way he looks at him, just kind of like, he sees him painting, and he goes to do the flowers.
Wheeling him through the house, you see his paintings everywhere. I mean, there are paintings all over that house that Frank has done, and it's like he went and got the paint. He had
to keep telling him a little more wall space. I got something else for it's perfect right here. Right. And he was like, "Damn it! I got to move this couch. I got to move all the guns that are there too."
I don't know if you noticed the yellow flowers that were out in the front of the walkway, like where their walkway runs into the sidewalk. The yellow flowers.
Yeah.
When Tess and Joel are there, it's in the shot as they're walking up to where they're having that conversation right about here. As they're walking out of the front yard, you can see those yellow flowers are in that pot. And then you can see later as Joel and Ellie get to the house, they walk in, you see those flowers in a shot as they're walking up, and the flowers have wilted and died like they haven't been watered. That was that little bit of foreshadowing that they are too late. And then you get in there, you see the dust on the stuff that they've noticed, which is kind of a callback to when Frank first walks in the house and he rubs that little bit of dust off the counter. And you can tell that nothing's gone on there for a while. Then you see like the real big sign where the bag and everything is still laying there where they had their final meal. And you're like, okay, we knew at that point where it all went anyway because we were there to see it all. But
and then it sucks because you realize when they left the QZ in that first episode, and they literally left the room, and then it zooms into the radio, and you hear the '80s song start playing, and you're like, shit, that was they already died. Yeah, they died before they even left the QZ, and they'd already, he said if he didn't reset that thing after like a week, or maybe not after a week, but even after a day or so. It would just stay on that continuous loop as like a, emergency, like, hey, something bad happened. And I'm like, oh, damn it. They're already too late before they even left.
Yeah. And then to top it off, he talks about leaving the window open so the smell wouldn't permeate the house. As Joel is getting ready to open the bedroom door to see them supposedly laying in bed, the front door closes behind him. Probably in large part because that window was open, so air currents pulled that door closed. Right. That was kind of like, I don't want to say the ghost of Bill or anything, but just kind of like that was the distraction that maybe if Bill would have been a ghost rolling around the house that he would have done to keep them from seeing them laying in the bed. Don't disturb this gravesite. Don't disturb this sacred site. Let people lay and rest because so few people get a chance to, lay in to go peacefully in this situation. So.
I was wondering because once I realized that's what happened. Because again, I'm still thinking. I'm trying to not just be in the game mindset. It's in the back of my head, but I was thinking like, well, the way we see Frank at all is we come across his dead body. I was thinking, oh, is it about to parallel that? Is he going to go in there and we don't have to see just maybe him open the door and just see them and kind of just be like, and then just shut it again. I thought, oh crap, is it going to be the same? But no, it was nice that at least he had enough to, whether they were friends or not or whatever. He had enough respect for his friend's final wish to just let us be.
Yeah, I think it hits much more of an emotional note anyway, because you would have lost a lot from that final shot of the episode peering through the window, which I'll get a little bit more into in a minute.
I actually have something to say about that.
I think thematically, visually for the TV show, that's a much better emotional shot than what we would have gotten than what ended up happening in the video game. Like even if he would have just opened the door, saw it, then closed the door, and just kind of looked down all disappointed, it's like I don't even feel like that would have been as emotional. Sure, we could have seen the emotion on his face, and that would have done a number to us. But just knowing sometimes is enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to see the dead body; you just know the person's dead.
But the only thing I was gonna say is I'm like, I think I know what the window was. The main menu for the first game.
I saw that too.
I was like,
it's pretty neat. Actually.
I mean, your chair was further ahead than me. Yeah. I was like, I knew what it was. I'm like, that's the main menu of The Last of Us is just the window just cracked open, and then there's just the breeze, the curtains, and I'm like, oh, that's the thing.
Before we get too much into that though, there is some stuff that Joel and Ellie do stock up on a couple of things. Ellie, of course, finds Frank's gun that he kept in the drawer. So now Joel doesn't know it, but Ellie's packing.
Yes, because that's the gun she has in the game. It's the same model, the same. I'm freaking out. Sorry.
It looked kind of awesome. It looked like kind of like a Beretta. I didn't get a very good look at it.
A little bit. It's a little small caliber. It's a weird gun. Later in the winter section of the game, she has the bow and then that little pistol and her switchblade. I was excited. Oh boy. So I think I know how that's about to come into play if we're going to the next part here that we're going to. So
yeah, they stock up on some supplies. He goes to, along with the note, by the way, I forgot to mention, is the key to Bill's truck that he had been driving around for the entire episode, with no battery in it, of course. But because that seems to be a running theme of the show so far. But after some digging, he realizes that Bill also left him supplies to make a battery, sulfuric acid, so on, so on. So he takes some time to put it together and get it to charging, and they're gonna jump in Bill's truck and drive away onto whatever is next. But of course, she finds the tape in the glove compartment, puts it in, and it's playing "I'm Gonna Love You for a Long Time" by Linda Ronstadt. Great song, by the way. I really hope that song gets the running up that hill treatment. I was like,
it's about to
Stranger Things. Because I've said for a long time that Linda Ronstadt is one of the best voices ever. But
and that's something that they had in their relationship too, Bill and Frank. That was nice.
And obviously a callback to the earlier part of the episode where he starts to play the piano. He finds the sheet music for that song, and it ends up becoming a song that was very meaningful to Bill because of his long hidden feelings that he was finally able to touch on in this episode. But so they drive away to this song, and I thought it was beautiful. And then as they're driving away, we get to see not the view of them on the right side, of course, but we look through the window of the bedroom that they left open. And it was a very surreal but beautiful scene. It's like them looking out onto like, I'm guessing it was the sunset, looking out into the sunset of what I think are possibilities. Like I feel for the first time as a viewer that there is real genuine hope in this series. And I think that's one of the things that shot kind of conveyed to me was that, that they're off, that this journey is going to lead somewhere, that sunset is the light that they are chasing. You know what I mean?
Always darkest just before the dawn.
Darkest, yeah. Or what is this they say? When it's dark, find the light, whatever it is.
When you're lost in the dark, look for the light. Yeah.
I thought it was kind of a visual representation of that. What do you guys think of the last few minutes? Obviously Ellie not telling him about the gun, which we know is going to play into it at some point later on. But
I think I know what's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just the emotion of that last minute or so of the episode. Was it a good ending for you guys?
Yeah, because again, I was like, "Oh, that's the menu for the game." Oh my god, it's just little shit. I mean, people were freaking out about "Oh my god, they got the backpack animation." I'm like, people take off backpacks the same fucking way. You're right. Yes, when you go to craft, he slings it off his shoulder, kneels down, and goes into it, and then picks it back up. I'm like, that's how people take off backpacks. Ain't that big of a deal, guys. I mean, subtle stuff when they're down on the cover, they always sit the same way like that, one in front of the other. Subtle things. And I noticed, the window. I'm like, God, that's the menu. I love it in its simplicity. It's just the window. It's just you can kind of hear the theme in the background. Not the guitar one. It's just that weird, I don't know how to describe the sound when the window's open. And I don't know if I think it changed. I know it changes at the end once you beat the game, but I don't know if it changed now because now there's growth going into the window, plants. I know when you beat it in the window, Ellie's knife is stuck into the wood. So I remember that being part of it.
I feel like it was a pretty hopeful ending in a way. It felt
into a window of better life,
a better life. Really solidifying that Joel's gonna do this. He's gonna take Ellie. He's gonna do what needs to be done. But like you said about the humanity of it all.
Because we were wondering because when Frank says look, there was no cure for what I have even before the world went to shit.
Yeah, we were speculating.
So I was because when he was first painting, it looked like he couldn't use his one arm. I thought, did he have a stroke maybe? He can't use one side of his body. And then I thought, did he have AIDS? Did he have cancer? Because both of those you can't do anything about in this even before.
And I feel like Bill also moved the whole bed downstairs. Because I thought his bedroom was upstairs before.
I thought it was.
Yeah, and in the end, he rolled him into the back bedroom.
And
the first floor. I don't know if that's accurate.
Maybe he did he may have made it easier.
That was just something I was reminded of.
And that's the thing is we were talking about with. It's weird that it took an apocalypse for, these two guys to meet and then actually just decide hey, let's live it out because like you said they both had probably lived with as we were talking about if Frank had ended up having AIDS, it's you got to realize how old these guys were. They probably lived through the AIDS crisis and they probably lost loved ones and friends and people they knew and they couldn't, a different time where they probably couldn't say anything about that. And that's,
Right.
to finally now it's like the world's over, but like, you found that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, God damn, like, yeah, like you think about it more in depth like that, it just hurts even more. Like, how much more emotional damage do I need? God damn.
Yeah.
But at least it wasn't as stressful as the end of that is in the game. Frank is the reason. Bill is the reason you get a battery, but you got to roll that truck down a hill, pop the clutch, and get it started with zombies chasing you. So at least it was a little more peaceful.
Well, the third Last of Us 3 is getting ready to come out, right? Or has recently come out.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it. The only thing is text said that it's probably going to happen, and I don't know. I'm hopeful. I would like to, because at this point, I mean, the thing is now at this point, it's like, oh, now you have this, I don't want to use the word juggernaut yet, but like this powerhouse, I could say, I guess, of a show. And the thing I saw was like the sales for the game had gone up like 300%. Like people were getting into this series. Like they hear about it from people from like me who played the shit out of the game, which is now 10 years old, which hurts to think about. But yeah, hey man, we get there in the end. We got a show. Who's excited to see this show? And I'm not going to confirm or deny that I have actually bought every single version on every platform of that game. Maybe, I don't know. Did I? So I've contributed to the sales. But people see the show, and then they're like, they never played the game, and they're like, oh, what's this? Let's play the game. So it would kind of now be like it makes sense to like, hey, we could make a third game, and I mean, I kind of hope they do, because
2026.
Yeah, I'm just looking up right now.
Speculated.
Yeah.
I worry about them telling us that a movie's going to come out this year or even maybe next year. I'm like, video games is even harder because they got to work on them for so damn long.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. They're not the article I'm looking at doesn't commit to any specific date. It just says that there's a lot of talk. So
I would hope.
A lot of talk.
I would hope with all this out right now that I'm pretty sure they'll go that direction, and I hope they do. Because 2 was, I'm hoping. I'm like, look, I'm going to stop maybe being mad if 3 maybe does something else. Then we have this. This is now the big story of it, and I'm like, please do better than 2. I'm not mad.
But that's the question I have for you as someone who's more familiar with the game is where does without spoiling too much, I hope, where does the first game end and how do you think it's going to end in the first season of this? Because we know that they have come to terms that season 2 is coming out. It's been greenlit by HBO. So we're getting at least a season 2.
Yeah.
I would imagine that by the time we get season 2, if there is going to be a third version of the game, that we will have probably a better indication, if not an exact release date of it by then. So potentially a season 3, depending on what they do with season 2. I don't know how they'll break up the story of the game into the episodes. But I mean, how do you see this first season going the same route that the first game is at a basic story level? Do you think the season ends where the first game ends?
I'm hoping so. And I think that might be it, because I would think, when you make something like this, you at least want to like, let's do that for sure. And it's like, if anything, we did that. You know what I mean? Even if we don't get to season 2, if we don't tell this whole story at least, and at least get it into there. I mean, I don't know if they feel confident, like, okay, maybe we leave it, say, the half. Well, I'm trying to ruin the story, but in the back of my head, I'm like, well, that's the game. It could be different. Who knows? But like we just saw with Bill and Frank, like, I didn't know we were going to get a whole backstory, and you don't in the game. So it's like you could leave it off there and then like say that for like a season 2, like a second half. But just knowing what I've seen, like I think in the first episode at the end there, they showed like, oh, stuff coming out from like little clips from the rest of the season. And here's next week. I saw a shot of Joel, and again, I won't ruin anything, but like the place he looked like he was in and what he was doing, I'm like, that might be, like I said, that might be the end of the game. And I'm assuming it would make sense that would probably be the end of the season as well, the end of the game. So I'm hoping they at least encapsulate this story into, I mean, I don't remember if we said how many episodes were coming out.
Because I'm not sure it said either.
Okay, because I'm like, I feel like they might. Go ahead. I can talk for a second. I'm just being nitpicky. The gun he had, I'm like, well, it wasn't the same gun, but I mean, it's the end of the game. You kind of get the best end game weapon. which actually, well, I'll ruin it. Joel was actually carrying it in like episode 2. That little M4 he had. Like, that's kind of what you get at the end of the game. You don't really ever get that until the end.
9.
9?
9.
9 okay.
9 episodes, is that what it is?
Yeah, that's
what she's saying. Well, so I could see it. Who knows how long these episodes are going to be. I would hope we get to that point, because I think, like I said, we're about, I guess I really could say we're about a third of the way there. The next 2 people we're going to meet are probably Henry and Sam, which I'm not going to ruin. But remember, this game takes place over an entire year, so it's them getting from Boston to like Pennsylvania, out to Utah to Colorado, and then like back. So
yeehaw.
Yeah, yeehaw. It's I don't know if it's a fun road trip, but it's a road trip for sure, man. This whole game. I'm hoping, because I guess that's, where he says like, do what you have to do to keep her alive or shit like that. And that little shot of Joel, and I just looked at the background. I'm like, I think I know where he's at. And I think I know what moment that is. So this might be this season might just be the entire first game, which is pretty cool, because it's an easy, like I said, it takes place over a whole year, and it's split up into the 4 seasons. It's like kind of the big sections you play through.
Well, we have the episode names all the way up to episode 8. I don't know if this would give. Now, you being more in tune with the game might be able to tell you what there are hints out of these. The next episode is going to be entitled "Please Hold My Hand." The 5th episode is going to be entitled "Endure and Survive."
Yeah, there it is. Endure and Survive. I told you.
The 6th episode is called "Kin." 7th episode is called "Left Behind." The 8th episode is called "When We Are in Need," and the episode of the name of episode 9 has not been announced yet, so which tells me it might be a spoiler.
Probably. Well, just enough of that. Said hold my hand. Like I said, we're gonna get attacked by the hunters, and then you meet Henry and Sam. So again, more survivors that we're trying to. What'd you say to that? Oh, endure and survive.
Let me go back up. I was trying to read. Yeah, endure and survive, kin, left behind, and when we are in need.
Kin, I can tell you exactly what that is. That's about right. Oh, I know what endure and survive is. Yeah. Okay, kin, and then.
So knowing that, is that an indication for you that maybe this season is going to end about where the first game ends?
I think so. Okay. I could believe that. Yeah, and like I said, just that one little, him going around a corner with that looked like a mini 14. You know what it is?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think I know. I think I know what he's doing there. It would kind of make sense. Like we know what the end goal here is to get Ellie to the Fireflies so they can make a cure. So I can see that. And then maybe season 2 will be part 2. That one's my only issue with that is I'm like, well, we do time jump and Ellie's in her early 20s. I don't know if they're gonna try and make Bella Ramsey look older, or like what we're gonna do here with that. You can do crazy shit with hair and makeup, like just changing like they did in Walking Dead with Enid. Like she had like the real side part and like the bangs and the little straight hair. She looked like she was about 14, 15, like she's supposed to be. And then they gave her a little bit of a cut, and like the way they styled her hair, it looked like a little older, mature look. And I'm like, I can believe she's a few years older now. So maybe they'll do something like that, because she does have like a shorter haircut in the second game. It's kind of like to here-ish, not quite her shoulders. And then she got like a little pulled ponytail in the back, or a little like, I don't know,
a bun.
Not quite a bun. She got short. Yeah, she like ties it over in like a little bun in the back. But
Well, yeah, the only problem I had with this episode really is why so little Bill? I mean,
that's the most thing I was upset about. I'm like, I don't get to see him interact with Ellie. Damn it, that was the best part.
His character dying is not a problem for me, because I like the fact that I like the fact that there's no character that's safe in a show like this. No, so you're always on your toe. You're always. It's like that when you watch like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, when he's in danger, he's not going to die. It'd be pointless.
Nah.
And a lot of TV shows are that way. But it's like this show, I mentioned 24 earlier. One of the things that they did, I read about it years ago, is the directors and the showrunner said, we killed a major character every year because we wanted everybody to know that nobody was safe. that in this world, whether it's Jack Bauer, I mean, they killed his wife in the end of the first season. And they said they did that because they wanted to make very clear moving forward that nobody in this world is safe. That's why they killed his wife in the first season. And every year after that, they would kill a significant character. And I kind of, so I like the idea of Bill dying at some point, but he was a much bigger part of the marketing. And you've got Nick Offerman, who's a very popular actor to begin with for so many reasons. Why would you build him up like that? And again, a great episode with him. This entire episode is fantastic to me.
Yeah.
But he's already dead. We don't get this. It would have been fine if he'd have died like in episode 3 or 4. To me, that's kind of where I would probably, or episode 4 or 5. So we're down the line, get a couple episodes out of him. Maybe he does something like Tess does and sacrifices himself so that they can get away later on or something like that. But I mean, we only really got the one episode out of him. That's kind of a disappointment because this character was awesome. Yeah. And I think it would have been interesting to see not just his character grow over the course of this episode from that cold-hearted guy who's just trying to convert oxygen to carbon dioxide for the rest of his life. But it's like he experiences this in life, and then he has that loss, but he still moves forward trying to hold on to that little bit of a thing that he got from his relationship with Frank, while still dealing with the harsh realities of what's going on in the world with this infection. I think that would have been a fun thing to play with his character. And they just, I don't know. I feel like that's a bit of a wasted opportunity. Yeah, I mean, because he's definitely got a much bigger presence in the game than he is going to have in the series. Now, I'm not saying we're not going to see flashbacks of him at some point. I mean, obviously, we got a flashback of Tess, and we all know what happened to her. So it's not like we can see flashbacks, but I think it would have been really cool to have him kind of really involved in the show for about 2 or 3 episodes. That's my only real knock on this thing, because like I get immediately so enamored with his character from the jump in this episode, and he's already gone, and I'm like, oh, this is. I mean, this honestly, this on its own was like a great short movie.
Yeah,
it was a great short film on its own. I mean, you could just cut all the stuff with Joel and Ellie out of it, and just play this as a short film, and that'd be a really interesting short film to watch. Just kind of how these two people deal with the end of the world. Yeah, that would have been a fantastic short film to watch. But yeah, that's my only real knock on it. It's like they build him up a little bit in the marketing. And they're like, "Hey, everybody, we got Nick Offerman. Come watch our cool show," and he's gone after 1 episode. I'm like, oh, come on. Don't tease me with that. Not that
the episode was fantastic.
Yeah, it was a banger of an episode, but I mean, come on. There's still a lot that could have been done. You could have drawn that much more into the fold with him in it, but you know.
Because I guess if you play the game, man, just the interactions between Bill and Ellie are just fucking gold. You know,
and that's the thing is there is story precedence in the video games of him having a lasting impact for a while. So I'm like, I don't mind that he died, but I'm like, he's a significant character in the game, and you've only really given him an episode of worth in this entire series.
I mean,
if this thing goes 5-6 seasons, we've only got really 1 episode of Bill. Everything else is going to be little bits and pieces and flashbacks.
Well, I mean, I was gonna say, you know, like when I started with you with Walking Dead, I'm like, don't get attached to anyone, just don't. I know it's dumb to say that. It's hard because. Like, I'm sure we all fell in love with Bill and Frank in this 1 episode. And I'm like, God damn it. Like, I know it's going to happen. But it's the same thing. You just can't. As hard as it is, man. You feel for these characters. And it's a testament to the actors. Like, they sell that relationship to you. And you're still sad when it's gone. You know?
Felt very realistic for the circumstance that they were in.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that one guy that opened him up. I mean, like, when he just put his hand on him when he's at the piano, he almost starts to cry. I'm like, right. And it's like, it's funny because he's that character. He's like, dude, I know. Like, I get it. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, man. He's shit. I'm like, yeah, he's going to be the one that opens him up. I'm glad.
But a fantastic episode. I haven't seen the promo for episode 4 yet. I'm not even sure it's out. It probably is by now. I mean, it's
there was a snippet of it, but
I haven't seen it yet. I'll have to go watch it. But yeah, it was a fantastic episode. Again, the thing this episode tells me is that this is going to be much more. It's not going to be just action and fighting the infected zombies, not just that stuff. It's going to be very character driven, very emotional, a little bit more cerebral, which I like. I want to be able to, because it's too easy and too one-dimensional to just say fighting zombies. Hey, we've had 27 shows like this. We've got 37 variations of The Walking Dead now. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not that it doesn't work, but it does need to evolve into something new.
Really, the real Last of Us is the survivors we meet along the way, and I'm serious. Like it's, like I said, you can, it is broken up into the 4 seasons of the game, but it's also, you can kind of take the little like chapters of it. Like here's with Tess, here's with Bill, here's with Sam and Henry, here's with who's after that. Well, again, I want to ruin shit, but there's, Tommy, there's just Joel and Ellie again, then there's Marlene. She comes back because she's important. Remember her? So it is very much about like these are the people that you meet, and some of them do unfortunately have untimely deaths, and some of them don't. So it is like they were saying how different people have handled the apocalypse and how it ends up for them.
Yeah, but go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys thought about season 1, episode 3 of The Last of Us. Again, I thought it was a bit of a departure from what we had gotten so far, but it really gets you emotionally invested into this world now, not just in the actiony stuff, but in the character stuff. I like the fact that it's going to be a very character-driven show. I think you've got some great actors right now involved in it. I mean, I love Joel, I love Ellie. I loved Tess. Hopefully we'll at least get some more flashbacks of her. Hopefully a few more of Bill and possibly Frank. It'd be nice to see both of them again. But there's been great characters. Again, great casting. Pedro Pascal, perfect for this role. I'm really, really excited I already was really excited about what the show was going to bring, especially after the early reviews started to come out. But now that I've seen the first 3 episodes for myself, I am really, really just into where the show's going right now and how they're painting this picture and how they're presenting this world. I think it's fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I know Didi didn't like it. He said episode of Brokeback Mountain was subpar. Well, I mean,
I did pause it and say, hey, make a Brokeback Mountain with these 2 guys. Make a new remake of that.
That would have been a better Brokeback Mountain. But
yeah.
But look, if the problem
Heath Ledger like that, man, come on.
If they look, gay characters can be great characters too if they're written and acted well. That's it, and these were written and acted very, very well. And again, I'll go back to something I've already said about this: is you have the people who created the game, who are really in tune with this story from its inception all the way up to now, are writing this. As a matter of fact, all of the episodes were written by Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann.
Yep.
So these guys who are the creative minds behind this have written all of these episodes for this first season, which I think is something that works very, very well for the show.
And I was going to say, and the fact that both Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson are both in this too. The people who played Joel and Ellie in the game are also characters in this show. Because the little thing I saw of Troy Baker, he's like, look, I get it too because I love the story, and seeing as a fan now as a different character from an outside perspective, he's like, I was sitting there too, like crossing my arms, like, okay, where's this scene? Who does this? Who says this line? He's like, it's all there. I was very happy with what they did. This is probably the most true adaptation of this story that you could possibly ask for, because he mentions that, like, Neil Druckmann's the one who's behind it, who was also behind the game. So if you want any more better praise than that, I mean, that's where it would come from, is from the guy who played Joel. And like I said, Ashley Johnson said a few things too about it. She said the first time she saw Ellie, she's like, that's Ellie, that's her. I'm like, all right, good enough for me. Yeah,
these portrayals of these characters so far has been fantastic. I can't knock it even a little. I love it. I even the smaller characters have played. They've been significant. They've been great. I've loved every bit of it. But so go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys thought about episode 3 of The Last of Us. And real quick before we get out of here, don't forget 500 subscribers. Get us there. Man and Pet Project. Big charity stream. We'll do that. And support us on Patreon. Link down below. We'll be giving away $25 in free movie tickets, I think, next week. I think it's the next time I got it planned. But, so go join us in the link in the description as well. And thank you guys for coming in. Thank you to my great co-hosts, one of my video game expert for the channel, and his woman, our power couple. What do you guys got going on? 10 September, you doing anything on Twitch yet? You doing your gaming stuff?
So...
it's a work in progress, trust me.
Okay, so it's been a work in progress because in order to build a computer, I have to have a place to put the computer. In
order to build a computer, you gotta change the whole house.
Essentially, yes. I've been moving furniture.
You build the PC and you build the house around it.
Yes.
Seriously.
So I've been moving furniture. I have an office in my apartment that I use because my day job, I work from home.
Lucky fucker. I have to go to work.
I'm sorry.
Crack of dawn.
So I'm getting a desk put together. Hopefully, I've been moving furniture around like crazy, trying to make room for this thing.
I've just been playing video games while I do it. I'm not gonna stop you until it's all done.
I'm getting very close because I've moved 4 large pieces of furniture around in the past week to rearrange and make room. So as soon as I buy myself a desk, essentially I will be able to start actually building my PC, and then once it's built, I will start streaming. So we're getting there. I'm almost to the point. I'm getting very excited about it. I'm glad it's happening during this time of the year also, because seasonal depression, and the way to fight it is to have something to look forward to. So
yeah, right.
That's been nice.
Be great in apocalypse. Like, damn, we need to build that Arby's stuff.
Yeah, you got to build the Arby's. You got to have something to look forward to.
Have the boutique, the little corner shop.
Exactly.
The little old lady sells the flowers.
Just got to mow the grass. Mow the grass. It'll feel good.
Mow the grass.
Hey, they probably mow the grass. I don't know who's doing it in The Walking Dead.
Right.
Someone's strapped a fucking Toro to a walker and let him go for it. I don't know. Hell.
But,
and then, of course, my hetero life mate Jeremy. What do you got going on, my man?
Well, nothing really. I say that, and I'm going to sit here for the next 2 minutes explaining what I do. It's really nothing. I mean, but this show isn't nothing. I'm on this show whenever we do these reviews, be it Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever in the hell we decide. Also, I'll be here tomorrow. We're here every Thursday, or I'm here every Thursday, whatever, usually. Talking about all kinds of entertainment news, and be here tomorrow, because if you haven't heard, go look up. I mean, if you just type in James Gunn's name right now, you're about to shit some bricks for the next 5 minutes listening to this man talk. We got some stuff coming to DC, and I'm telling you, this is the Browns. Like, oh, we might get the Super Bowl now. We're getting there. Oh my God, the players are lining up. I'm telling you.
Comparison.
I've always said, man, DC is like the Browns fans. We're just like, it didn't work out. Damn it, darn. You just shrug it off, man. But there's some stuff to be had discussion about tomorrow for sure. But yeah, there's that. I don't have the name there because I had to put your name in. But it's Grim Tuesday 23. I'm on like I said, I have my own YouTube that I don't. Hey, look at you! Look at you, the techno wizard over here. I didn't do that, by the way. That was all the magic of Frank over there. Yeah, I guess we can say everybody needs a Frank in their lives. Let that be the takeaway of this lesson of this episode.
Damn right.
of this week. I was gonna go there. Never mind. I was like, well, the hetero.
You're hetero.
I know, Mike. You gotta have a hetero or a homosexual life mate, Frank. Whatever it may be. So, yeah, I also have a Twitch myself. And actually, fun fact about that, you showed me this today. A year ago, we started building that giant Millennium Falcon out of Lego, which I didn't realize it's already been a year.
A year ago today, we started building that.
Holy crap. Not like we didn't spend 10 weeks on it, though. That's why I was like, God, really?
Yeah.
I forgot when we started it. So that's fun. That's also on this channel. Go check that out. Shit. It's just, I was dicking around making a Falcon for a few hours. Going to put it in the background, listen to us bullshit, do trivia. I don't know. It's there. But like I said, I do have Twitch, which also I'm not doing anything right now because I'm just invested in this show. But now it even sort of feels like with the passing of Tessa's character actor, I'll play the first game after the show is over, and like I literally say, we'll compare notes. Just have a good time with that. And after that, I don't know, probably Batman. I do have a weird thing about an idea about incorporating D&D into stuff like Fallout and Skyrim. It'll be a thing. And he's down there in the description. No, Brooding Gamers down there. We've got some things in the works of in the way of ghost hunts and stuff like that. So that'll be fun if you want to go see me. Totally not planning on dressing up like a Ghostbuster to do this. And I might go up to a rooftop and play a little song like a certain character we all know. For our intro. I am just saying it's gonna be awesome. So that's what's going on with me. It's not there yet. I was like, this is my year, 86, baby. 23, baby.
And as for me, you can find me. Let me take that down since Jeremy's done blathering. As for me, you can find me here.
You asked.
You can find me here every Thursday going over all the stuff happening in the world of entertainment, television, streaming, TV, all that good stuff. And yes, as Jeremy said, we will be here tomorrow breaking down the big announcement from James Gunn. He said sometime this month we were going to get some news about his vision for DC, and boy, did we get it. Some big news, some stuff kind of expected, some stuff not really expected. I'm not ready to say in Gunn I trust just yet, but I'm pretty close. I have my things here, my qualms, but for the most part, I'm really, really excited about what he announced yesterday. We're going to break that down. We're going to talk about that project by project tomorrow. What we think is going to come over the course of the next couple of years. Remember, we still have 4 projects from DC that still need to hit theaters before we actually start this new DCU, this Safran Gunn-led juggernaut that they want to try to build. So we'll be breaking all that stuff down tomorrow with the normal crew. Thanks to the power couple, to Jeremy and Rachel, for joining us as always. Big parts of the channel. Thanks to all of you for coming to hang out with us. We very much appreciate it. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Adios.